I've been thinking about this for a while, talking about this with friends for a while. What, are they crazy? I mean, the mainstream media, are they nuts? And I kind of get now that they're not crazy and they're not nuts. Doesn't mean they're right, but there are particular incentives that are driving them to do what they're doing. Why are they going so mental over Trump? You know, as I said before, you go to Google News and scroll through. If you've got the Canadian edition, it's like Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump crazy, Trump bad, Trump racist, Trump xenophobe, Trump crazy, Trump whatever, right? I mean, it's nonstop, and it's great. It's fucking great. Because for a long time, this bias in the media was considered to be a conspiracy theory. Ooh, you think there's all this liberal bias in the media? I guess you think that lizard men run the planet. It's like it was considered, but now it's like nobody has any doubt anymore. It's completely obvious. And there's a lot of things that have come out of this that is great. So first of all, everyone understands that the mainstream media is the publicity arm of the Democrat Party in the U.S. And, you know, the media in general is the mouthpiece of the lefties in power. So good. That's been set to rest because they're now admitting it. Well, if I think that Trump is a dangerous demagogue who's going to blow up the planet, it's fine for me to be biased because he's evil. I mean, you don't expect history books to be neutral about Hitler, do you? Right. So at least that is no longer a conspiracy theory. That's out in the open. And, I mean, it's crazy. But so they tried to hide it for, quite a while. And now they don't try to hide it. And that's great. Whew. Fantastic. So the question is, well, a couple of confusing questions. Number one, how on earth is Obama furious at his daughter for appearing to smoke pot when he basically said he was a pothead for significant portions of his youth? Oh, do as I say, not as I did. That's natural. But anyway, the other question is, why the hell are they doing this? Why are they torturing themselves so significantly? Well, I don't know if you know this. It's pretty nutty. But a lot of money from the mainstream media, a lot of their profits come from political advertising, right? Billions and billions of dollars just on television ads alone are spent in an election cycle in an attempt to influence the outcome, right? Now, how much money has Trump spent on TV ads?
Out of his own money?
Doesn't matter. They don't care whose money it is. They just want it, right? They don't care if it comes from space aliens shitting gold into a dish. They just, he spent very little money on television ads. He spent very little money on television and radio. He spent very little money on anything.
Right.
Because Trump has free publicity because he flies on a jet that has gold seat belt buckles. He's Trump. He doesn't need to pay for ads because if he phones up someone and says, I want to give you an interview, they'll take the interview and people will watch it. So Trump doesn't need to spend money on ads. Now, Jeb, ! Apparently from the family of exclamation marks. I think they're out in the Hamptons somewhere. But Jeb spent millions and millions and millions of dollars on ads. Tens of millions, I think. And so the newspapers and the radio and the television loved Jeb and loved everyone else who was spending lots of money on them and didn't like Trump because Trump was cutting into their profit margin. I guarantee you, people have lost their jobs in American media because Trump has not been spending money on ads. Right? So partly it's just bald, naked economic self-interest. If Trump's in the race, we are out tens of millions of dollars. So there's that aspect, which is important. It's the same thing with political consultants. Why are political consultants so angry at Donald Trump? Why do they oppose Donald Trump so much? Because he doesn't hire them. Right? And here's the thing. It's not just Trump not hiring these political consultants. If Trump doesn't hire these political consultants and Trump wins, it's not just this round, it's the future. Trump is completely rewriting the economics of politics, and the economics of politics is $1 trillion business over time. Well, maybe not trillion. Many, many billions of dollars over time. So that basic reality that political consultants and the people who do all of this data mining and stuff like that, I mean, those people have been selling their wares in politics for a long time. And it has been considered absolutely necessary to pay for their services, right? Now, Trump cleaned up in the Republican nomination process while spending, if I understand this correctly, and I think this number is correct, precisely $0 on all this stuff. So again, these guys are out millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. So of course they're not going to like him. Now, the business people don't like Trump for a couple of reasons. Number one, they can't buy him. So, I mean, if you donate a lot of money, there just is half the people who saw Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State, half of the people that she saw had donated to the Clinton Foundation. I wonder if that's a mysterious coincidence. I think the RICO standard is no, it's not. So big business likes politicians that they can buy, that they can donate to, that they can support, that they can fundraise for, that they can super PAC up the yin-yang. They love those guys because they provide them a bunch of benefits, and then those people in general in a pay-for-play scheme will provide them benefits, political benefits in return. So they don't like him either. But it's even more than that. And this is just tip of the iceberg of the people who don't like him. But here's the basic reality, Sergey, that I think is going on. And once we understand what the stakes are, then I think we'll understand why the reactions tend to be so hysterical. So let's say that Donald Trump gets in. Let us then further say that Donald Trump is able to convince, let's say, 11 million illegal immigrants to not continue to enjoy the American experience. What does that do to the Democrats?
Lose their vote.
Yeah, they have lost their most reliable voting base, voting bloc. Right? We know that Muslims reliably vote left. And so if Donald Trump does something about Muslim immigration, then the left loses another voting bloc. Now, the media has all of its connections and has designed itself entirely and specifically around the possibility of the Democrats getting power in American politics. That's their whole thing. That's all they're adapted to. They are the parasite and the Democrats are the host. Maybe it's the other way around. It doesn't really matter. But the media has, for at least 2 generations, grown into the publicity arm of the Democrat Party. Now, if Donald Trump gets in and undercuts the voting bloc base of the Democrats, this is why this election is so crucial. Because if Hillary Clinton gets her way, then the Democrats are going to continue to import voters from overseas who then, or legitimize voters who are there illegally in America, or who will then be able to vote more easily. And so if Hillary gets her way, the Republican Party is finished. Finished. I say that without proof, but with great conviction. There's lots of evidence for it. They go the way of the Whigs, and for the same damn reason. But anyway, if the Democrats get in November, the Republican Party is finished. I mean, it might still exist as a kind of handmaiden or justification or pretend choice in American politics, but they'll be done as far as listening to what the Republican voting bloc or voting base want. So if Hillary gets in, the Republican Party is toast. On the other hand, if Donald Trump gets in, I believe the Democrat Party, as it's currently constituted, is toast. Because they can't survive. And look, it's not like all illegal immigrants vote. Of course, they can't in many, right? But the path to citizenship that Hillary Clinton wants, and she wants a massive increase in immigration from third world countries. Not because the left values diversity. The left doesn't give two rat shits about diversity. If the left cared at all about diversity, they'd say, wow, we seem to have a lot of leftists here in academia and the media and Hollywood. So we really need to open it up to Republicans because they are a significant portion of America, and we don't have enough Republican representation here at the New York Times or at Harvard or wherever. They don't care about diversity. If they cared about diversity, they'd enact diversity where they actually had power already, which is in the media and academia and the arts. They don't care about diversity at all. They care about importing people who are going to vote left. Of course. They like power. So if Donald Trump gets in and there's self-deportation means no path to citizenship. Self-deportation means fewer illegal immigrants coming in, if any. If there's a wall, it blocks off the Democrats from their drug of choice, which is non-Americans who vote left, right? And so if Donald Trump gets in, well, first of all, if he does achieve positive things for the black community, which I think there's good reasons to believe he will, then the black community may shift its allegiance from the left to the right. If there's no path to citizenship, then the Democrats can't drool over the prospect of legitimizing millions and millions of people who are almost exclusively going to vote for Democrats. It's like 80, 85%, I think, of Hispanics are going to vote left. So this is not business as usual. This election in November is the life or death of one of the two historical parties in America, in my humble opinion. Now, not only does Donald Trump's candidacy remove tens of millions of dollars, billions of dollars from the pockets of the mainstream media. I mean, he'll run some ads, but he doesn't. Again, he's a free market guy. He doesn't need to. But Donald Trump's candidacy threatens the continued existence of the Democrats as they are currently constituted, as a party that doesn't have to make arguments because it's got its thumb on the scale of the voting machines, because it's importing voters that automatically agree with it for a variety of cultural reasons, rather than making the case to the American people. Which is why the Democrats get so crazy when people start talking about immigration. Not because they have some great love for immigration, it's just that's how they get their drug of choice, which is power, and the way they get it is by importing people who are going to vote left. Started in 1965 and has continued to this day. Now, the media understand this. The Democrats understand this. The Republicans, the Republican mainstream, to some degree, understand this. Donald Trump understands this completely. I guarantee you, Donald Trump understands this completely. These are the stakes. This is either America turning into the usual leftist hellhole, into Brazil, or it is America not doing that. And it is the continuation of one party or the other, but I don't think both.
I never thought it was going to be the last straw for either side, to be honest.
Again, this is my opinion. I think there's good reasons for it, but for the media, mainstream media, all their contacts, all their preferences, all their culture, all of their hires, all of their reason for getting out of bed in the morning is to promote the Democrats. If Donald Trump, through his policies on immigration, on border security, on jobs, on creating opportunities rather than dependence for certain poor communities, Donald Trump is going to attempt to undo the last 50 years of Democrats importing voters rather than making their case to the American people, importing leftist voters rather than trying to convince the American people that more socialism is the way to go. If Donald Trump undoes Obamacare, why is there Obamacare? There is Obamacare because illegal immigrants can't afford health care. Right? Healthcare premiums for a family of four cost like $15,000, $20,000 a year. You're making $10 an hour, your grand total sum before taxes and expenses is $20,000 a year. See, the Democrats want to import these voters, but these voters don't make much money, so the Democrats have to keep firing more and more resources to keep those voters in the country, or those potential voters in the country. Because you see, even if they can't vote, they're still a constituent and a sort of power base in the economic calculations of both left and right. So if he undoes Obamacare, then there's less incentive to stay. If he builds a wall, if he does all of the things that he says he wants to do, then the Democrats are crippled. Crippled. And if the Democrats are crippled, what is the job of the media? Well, their whole job is to promote and protect the Democrats. If the Democrats are crippled, nobody's going to care about the Democrats. But that's all the media writes about. That's all their contacts. That's all their culture, all their hires. Everything they do is about protecting the Democrats, attacking Republicans and protecting Democrats. Now, if the Democrats are politically crippled, what is the media going to write about and who's going to care what they say? Which means people are going to stop watching and listening and buying. Which means that with fewer eyeballs, then the price that the media is able to charge for their ads is going to collapse. So if the Democrats are crippled, nobody's reading them or watching the mainstream media, which means their ad revenue, which is already going down, their ad revenue is going to collapse. So they're literally fighting for their continued economic survival. They're fighting to stay alive, in my opinion. So I think it's important to understand what the stakes are. If Donald Trump gets in, if he's successful, he's going to do 2 terms. Media is already bleeding money. The mainstream media is already bleeding money in many situations and circumstances. Could they survive 8 years of plummeting ad revenue? Of it never coming back? Because if Donald Trump is right, limiting immigration, deporting or causing situations of self-deportation among illegal immigrants, and reviving the economy, if Donald Trump is right, building the wall and all of the policies that he pursues, if this does spark a renaissance in America, if this does get people off welfare, if it does get them working again, if families start to heal, if the economy begins to grow, if tax revenue is simplified, if people have a tax form they can fill out on the back of a postage card, if he's able to bring down corporate tax rates to the level of Germany, down from one of the highest in the world that America currently has, and if this creates jobs, and if all the things that he says he wants to do and can do, if he does achieve those things, then the Democrats are done. They're done. You will need a whole new media. That's why I keep doing what I'm doing. You understand? You'll need a whole new media. The old paradigm will be gone. And you will no more be able to sell ad space on what we now call the mainstream media than you will be able to flog a copy of Pravda after the fall of the Soviet Union. So the media is fighting for their lives and for their cause and for their friends, the demos and all that. But this is a huge, huge, I dare say, shift and change in American media, in American politics, and in the future, not just of America, but of the West as a whole. Because if Trump's policies work out, you'll see new Trumps. You'll see more Trumps. You'll see in other countries. So I think it's really, really important to understand that this is why the media is abandoning all of its pretense at objectivity because they're fighting for their lives. If the media was a company, like if a company was facing a competitor that it couldn't control, that could threaten all of its revenue, would that company speak negatively about that competitor? Of course it would.
Mm-hmm.
And it would try everything it could in its power to create a negative impression of that competitor in order to protect its own market base. Like the lefties fully understand how this works with corporations, except when those corporations are lefty media corporations, in which case, it's all pure ideology, and profit and loss have no bearing whatsoever. The fact that Carlos Slim bought out huge amounts of New York Times debt, and then the New York Times suddenly pivoted to be very pro-Hispanic immigration, when Hispanic immigration sends tens of millions or more of dollars back down to Carlos Slim's operations in Mexico. Yeah, we all understand that. That's not complicated. That's not confusing. We got it. We understand it. Makes perfect sense. Media is just corporations, and they like to protect their profits. And so the fact that Trump isn't spending money, hiring them to put out his ads, well, Trump is a giant money loser for them, and everyone else is a money winner. So of course they're anti-Trump. I get it. I get it. So they understand how the profit incentive skews motives in corporations. Just remind them that mainstream media, just corporations. That's all they are. Right. And they follow the money. Now, there is an ideological component. But because for me, the question was, why on earth are they torching all future credibility when Trump has a decent chance of winning? Why are they torching all future credibility? And I start to think about, okay, well, what plays out if Trump wins? He gets 2 terms. Well, we know from the Bushes that you can pass from father to son, the presidency, maybe Donald Trump Jr. or the still rather ridiculous name Barron Trump. I'm going to create my own cartoon character, but instead of Richie Rich, I'm calling him Barron Trump. I better put him in his own private school because that's a name that'll get you thumped anywhere else. But it could go on. It go on, and they're not. I don't think that the mainstream media companies in general are sitting on the kind of cash reserves that can have them last out maybe 2 terms of Trump. Advertising revenue is going elsewhere. And that's important to understand. I believe that they're fighting for their survival in the same way that I'm sure Hillary Clinton's going to get prosecuted if Trump gets into power. I believe that as an article of near physical faith. And so that's pretty high stakes stuff. Hope I win because losing isn't a book deal. Well, I guess it might be a book deal of how to live with your cellmate. I don't know. I mean, I think that it's a ridiculously and intensely and almost entertainingly high stakes game that's going on in American politics at the moment. It's now or never. It's do or die. And I literally can't picture how it would be possible for the stakes to be higher. This is not an election. This is not an election. Fundamentally. It's a referendum on whether the West survives or not.